There are some cars that define the classic car scene. Cars that for whatever reason have captured enthusiast imagination for decades and survive in big numbers to this day. The MGB, obviously. The Mini, naturally. And yep, the Morris Minor. One of the reasons why the Morris Minor is so loved is because of what it represented. With its bare bones, no frills design, it was cheap enough that for a lot of people, it was their first entry into car ownership. What's more, no matter what you wanted your Morris Minor to be, there was a variant for you. The two-door saloon like this one, a four-door saloon, the wood-frame Traveller Estate, my personal favourite, a convertible, and even a van. It was ubiquitous enough to sell over 1.3 million Morris Minors in its life, and many of them survive to this day. But why do so many people love the little moggy so very much? I think the main reason is that it just makes you smile. If you're used to anything even vaguely modern, we're talking built in the last 40 years modern, the Morris Minor is a properly old school experience. I'm wearing a microphone right now, but you can still probably hear, you can hear everything as it's going on. I can hear the engine, I can hear the gearbox, I can hear the wind pelting the outside of the car. And just because the windows are up, that doesn't stop every single bit of noise from outside getting into the cabin. If you're not used to driving classics, a Morris Minor will teach you everything you need to know. The steering is actually surprisingly direct, but not much going on in the way of feel and nothing going on in the way of power assistance. Ditto the brakes. They're not bad because it's a very small, very light car, there's not much to pull up, but there is no servo assistance, and that means all of the braking strength is you. What's more, changing gears. There's no synchro in first, so you can't go into first while you're still moving. You have to be at a dead stop before you go into it. And double declutching is going to be your best friend on the downshifts. Then there's the suspension. Torsion bar suspension is fairly common to use at the back of a car. For example, our Peugeot 205 has got torsion bars at the back. But the Minor has got torsion bars all round, and that makes for some slightly interesting handling characteristics. I wouldn't call it planted, and I wouldn't want to be driving it at much more than about 50 miles an hour because it starts to get very skatey. And because of those torsion bars, it's quite bouncy as well. Double declutch third gear, there we go. So if you do it and do it right, it's satisfying. And that's why the Morris Minor is possibly the perfect first classic, because it teaches you all these things about old cars. It teaches you their foibles. It teaches you the problems that you have to work around because the technology wasn't there to do it for you. Another thing the Morris Minor teaches you is patience. This is not a fast car. Even in its biggest engine 1098cc, guys, you're still not going to be getting to 60 much under 20 seconds. So don't try and go quickly. Relax and enjoy its charms at low speed. I don't know if you can tell, but even though I'm not really going very fast, I'm still having a huge amount of fun because there's so much involvement. And it's not just the driving experience that makes the Morris Minor arguably the perfect starter classic. It's the ownership prospect as well. The club scene is enormous. The parts supplies are plentiful. The people with knowledge are almost infinite if you jump online and look in the forums and go to all the owners club meetings. And actually maintaining it yourself, you learn so much about old car ownership, maintaining a carburetted engine, keeping that suspension in good health, even making sure all the chrome work is still straight and true. It's a car that you genuinely can get your hands stuck into and learn a little bit. Double declutch into third, there we go. Oh, sweet. Sweet little engine. And if you drive it with just a little bit of finesse, rewarding as well. But what's it actually like to own a Morris Minor? If you fancy getting into one as your first classic car, what's it like? Well, to find out, let's talk to Simon, editor of Classics Monthly, who owns this rather lovely Morris Minor. There's a chap in a Morgan three-wheeler just gone the other way. Really hope that was on camera.
When I was about 14, 15, the Minor was the car I always wanted then. Luckily I never got one because the idea at the time was to put big wheels on the back and fur around the dashboard, so it would have been absolutely horrendous. They're still a car you can drive on a regular basis today. They're not quickest, they're not ideal motorway cruisers, but for general traffic they're brilliant. Parts supplies, you can choose from half a dozen suppliers that can give you everything you need for a very low price. The club is brilliant, very active, very enthusiastic. You've got Whitworth spanners that you need to use, even though the threads are UNF, so that can catch people out. But yeah, they're so easy. There's information out there on them, workshop manuals, they're brilliant. Within the club there's a good youth movement. You've got backup. Car itself is so easy to work on. You can see everything, you can access everything, so yeah, I can't think of many better ones to go for, to be honest.
I couldn't agree with Simon more. As a first classic car proposition, if you want to learn about cars from the 50s and 60s, the Morris Minor is almost unrivaled in the UK at least. The parts and club support is enormous and you can always get the part you want or the bit of advice you need. Working on them is easy and it's a good car to get your hands dirty with to learn all these old car skills. And when you've finished working on it, you can have a go driving it. And when you do, there's not many cars that will put such a grin on your face at such modest speeds. So then, if you fancy yourself a classic car to start off to get into the scene, something you can learn on, something you can work on, and something that gives you a flavour of times gone by, there really is no drive finer than a Morris Minor.